Mere conservatism.
I'm Cleve Walker and David Perry here in the studio with me, and I'm so glad that you're here with your dry sense of humor because I am all over the place right now, David, emotionally about what's going on. I mean, at one moment I'm just angry, another moment I'm just really concerned, another moment I'm just, I don't know what I am. And this is not like me. Normally I'm pretty even keeled, but let's go ahead and start with the big story. Okay. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, I hope I pronounced his name right, he spoke sternly against Russia, and he said, we're not downplaying the gravity of the situation. Now, this is NATO Secretary General. He says, peace in our continent has been shattered, calling the Russian invasion a brutal act of war. Now, meanwhile, and this is a part.
First, I'll just stop you right there and say, I don't know how Putin is ever going to recover from that stern talking to that he just got. Oh, my goodness. Anyway, go ahead.
I can't go ahead because you make such a great point, because this is the crowd, and Biden is of that crowd. I mean, when you can read a teleprompter properly, they have these stern statements that basically say nothing.
If you invade Ukraine, you know what I'm going to do? We're going to pass a resolution.
A strong worded resolution. And my thing is, it's another reason why I miss the Trumpster. Okay. Because this guy didn't do that. And he still doesn't do it. But my point is, let's stop there. Anyway, but here's the thing. Now, here's the crowd that we have in power. President Biden's climate czar, John Kerry, who, by the way, served in Vietnam.
Whose face looks like a melted candle of wax.
Stop it. He does still look a lot like Lurch from the Addams Family, but that's another story. All that reminded me of the late Rush Limbaugh, and we won't get there. But anyway, he came out with a statement that he's concerned that Russia's war against Ukraine is going to distract the world from the climate change crisis.
You know what? This climate change thing is driving me crazy. You know why?
Oh.
Because, Cleve, you know what a main ingredient of this issue we're having with Russia right now is?
What?
Climate policy. It really is if you think about it, because what has Europe done over the last decade or so? Europe has gone to wind power, and they've gone to solar power.
That's a good point.
And they've gone to all these green energy sources that, by the way, only provide about 3% of their energy needs. I was reading an article earlier this week about how much power renewables provide for Europe.
Right.
Europe decided to do away with nuclear power,
right,
which is one of the stupidest things you could do. To phase out coal, to phase out all these things, to do all these green energy solutions, if you want to call them that, that don't provide enough energy, and then they have to import their natural gas from Russia, becoming dependent on them because they have to have fuel, they have to have heat, they have to have these things. Europe has, and the United States is in the whole West. They are hamstringing us with these climate change policies that aren't going to do anything, don't meet our needs, that make us dependent and just under the thumb of places like the Middle East and places like Russia and other places. China isn't. They're burning everything they can. They're using all the energy. We are doing this to ourselves in so many ways. And when we talk about this conflict between Russia and Ukraine, I know we're going to talk about this a little bit, but there's so many things that have been done wrong over the last several years that have led us to this point.
Right. And a lot of that has been done over the last year.
Well, and
I mean,
yes,
seriously.
You're right. And green policy,
that's
climate change policy is one of those things.
That's a biggie.
that has now actually fueled a war.
Yeah, it's come back to bite us.
It's not the only. I'm not saying that that's why this war is happening, but it's one of many things that has led to this circumstance.
Well, it's also one of many things, now that you brought it up, that has led to our nation being totally left in the lurch at a time when we need to be energy dependent the most because of the climate policies. We're now just as vulnerable as every other nation in the world that does not have the stockpile and the store of natural resources that we have. So they literally set us up at the worst possible time to do this climate change nonsense.
And this is not even discussing the issue of climate change.
Right.
That's another podcast, okay? We're just talking about the policies that have been put in place to address this crisis, quote unquote, that they're bad policies. Yeah. They are hurting us.
They could end up destroying us. I don't want to get too grave here, but my point is there's a reason. They were always going to do this. I believe Russia was always going to do this, just like I believe that China was always going to eventually go into Taiwan. We'll talk about that in a moment. But the timing now, I believe, is directly involved to the policies that you're talking about and to the posture that the United States has put itself in. Mm-hmm. We have never been more vulnerable and less, to me, influential than we are right now. And so you can't tell me that Putin didn't factor that into whether I think it moved up his timetable actually for what he's doing.
Well, of course. I mean, I agree with you that they've always wanted to do it, mm-hmm. but they just needed the right circumstances to do it.
And they got it.
They green-lighted Nord Stream, that pipeline going from Russia to Europe, which allowed Russia to bypass Ukraine.
Right.
One of the things that kept Putin at bay is that he would disrupt his ability to supply Europe with oil and disrupt his economy. They really only have oil. That's pretty much all they have. And so that was one thing that was holding him back. So we greenlit the Nord Stream 2 pipeline at the same time getting rid of Keystone XL in our country, which makes little to no sense. A really big ingredient to Russia invading Ukraine is the botch job in Afghanistan.
Thank you.
Because this was a huge huge light flashing. Biden is incompetent.
Right.
And that was a huge signal for Putin, and not just Putin.
No.
Other people too, saying this might be our chance when we have such an incompetent leader.
They will never have a better chance than
to
this.
make a run at this, and we want to do it. So everything is coming into place. You have Europe's dependence, self-inflicted, on Russia. You have the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which they're doing some sanctions or something on right now, but it's all superficial. You have the botch job in Afghanistan. You have a very weak Western world, and we talk about it all the time, Cleve. They don't think the way we do.
No.
And they don't behave the way we do because they have different goals. They have different mindset. All we think about in the West is comfort and being rich and, the next gadget and all that stuff. These are people that thrive on patriotism and self-sacrifice for the cause. And
who's that? Patriotism, you mean?
Putin.
Putin?
No. That's what he does in his country, the motherland. It's all about Russia and the greatness of Russia.
He is reconstituting the Soviet Union.
And that has such a big part to do of the way they think of themselves is their reign.
Well, the reason I stopped at the idea of patriotism, which, it is a version of it, but China and Russia, the reason why I think this is so important that we're seeing them in their true colors, both of them not only want to be world players, having a huge influence, but both of them, especially China, because I believe the ones who they're going to achieve it, want to be the world player. In other words, they don't want to be one among nations as the globalists who are running this country do. They want to be calling the shots, and they will not be satisfied until they are. So this is why I keep telling my libertarian friends and my isolationist friends, I don't want us to be all over the world being the police of the world. I don't want to jump in every conflict that ever comes up. But we cannot withdraw totally to our shores and forsake any influences or alliances in the world. That is what China and Russia actually want us to do.
Because they're going to fill the void.
You got it.
This is not a live and let live, play nice, and everybody will be fine kind of situation. It just isn't that. And guess what? I'm not even saying... And I didn't say, so you did not hear me say, that I think that we ought to get in armed conflict with Russia and Ukraine.
No.
Because I don't think we should do that.
No.
I don't think it's a good idea. However, What I am saying is that we could have avoided it. I do think that we should have kept it from happening with better policy over the last year, especially, but for the last decade.
Yeah,
we could have kept this from happening if not for the incompetence of people like Joe Biden.
All right, and that's well said. Now, here's where the other shoe drops as far as what's happening now. Taiwan scrambled its air force this past Thursday as 9 Chinese aircraft entered the island nation's air defense zone. The Taiwan Ministry of Defense said a small fleet of 8 J-16 fighters and had a technical reconnaissance aircraft. They breached the airspace of Taiwan. And the Taiwanese aircraft broadcast a warning and said, we're monitoring the Chinese fleet's activities. So here's the thing. A Chinese defense ministry responded to all this, and they stressed that Taiwan is a core issue for China, and China will tolerate no foreign interference. And here's the statement they released. We urge the U.S. side to recognize the high sensitivity of the Taiwan issue and stop interfering in China's internal affairs and stop playing with fire on the Taiwan issue. This is an official statement from the Chinese.
Sounds like a threat.
Sounds like a threat to me. I mean, again, I believe that China and Russia have agreed to kind of like triangulate against the U.S. because both of them, David, can help each other out. For example, if we put any sanctions we put on Russia now, the Chinese can help offset that. With certain goods and services. I mean, you see what I'm saying?
Well, last week we talked about North Korea saber rattling too. So that's all. They're all part of that. And not. By the way, we also have the Biden administration trying to re-up in a deal with Iran.
Yes.
With Russia and China at the table. By the way, this is a dangerous group of people. Iran, Russia, China, especially North Korea, it's bad. And if I was the U.S., I would be tempted to say our relationship with Taiwan is very important to us. Yeah, and it is a very important central internal issue that Taiwan remains free. Yeah. And an independent state. And we would encourage every country, especially China, to not get involved in the U.S. affairs in Taiwan. Yeah,
but see, that a statement like that would never come from
just kind of throw it right back in their face.
They won't do. Trump would have, but this present administration won't. Believe me, and I actually believe that China owns our present administration, but that's just me. All right, real quickly, go ahead.
Not to pass over that too quickly.
Okay,
I just want to say the issue with China and Taiwan is it's a much bigger deal than Russia and Ukraine.
I agree.
Because Taiwan is a very, very important trade partner, and China is much more dangerous than Russia is.
I'm telling you, I agree.
Much every level.
I agree.
And so this is, again, it is a byproduct of the botched job in Afghanistan. I cannot stress that enough. What a big problem that was for our country. Really, really bad sign when those decisions were made and it went so horribly. You broadcasted to the entire world that we have impotent leadership.
I put it this way on a Facebook post recently, David. I said, have you ever wondered what it would look like if America ceased to be the champion of liberty? I said, we're about to find out. We're about to find out what a vacuum caused by America not being what the America has been all these years, the leader of the free world. We're about to find out what happens when you create that vacuum. We're seeing that in real time.
It's a real problem.
Another thing is we talked about all the nations out there, the totalitarian nations, and all of a sudden, lo and behold, we got one on our own border.
Oh, Canada.
Thousands. You said that's their national anthem. But no, let me finish the statement. But here's the thing, what's happening over there. Now, this is interesting. Thousands in this country recently signed a letter to Congress protesting the imprisonment of a Canadian pastor who spent the past 2 weeks in solitary confinement after he gave a speech to the anti-vaccine mandate Freedom Convoy blockade. He just gave a speech to him. This is the same guy, remember on the video, who told them to get out He was telling the Canadian police to get out of his church. They got him in jail now. He was arrested for the 5th time since the pandemic, and 4 days after he delivered a 20-minute speech to the truckers in Alberta in which he urged them to hold the line but not resort to violence. He said that several times. So right now, the guy's name is Pawlowski. His family says he's being treated poorly in prison. He's in solitary confinement, and they're really asking for our own Congress or somebody to say something or to send a letter of sanction or concern. When did Canada become a totalitarian state? And I think that's what it is right now, because they're still under emergency powers.
Yes, no, it is a totalitarian state at the moment. You could say that it technically became totalitarian when that emergency order went into place, but it's been leaning that way for a long time. And Canada's been a problem, and they have not had they have been under the thumb of this government in Canada for quite a few years, and you see it with the COVID restrictions. You see it with speech restrictions, the hate speech laws and stuff like that. I think it's just an example of totalitarianism creeping in, and that's been going on in Canada for a long time. But they've crossed some lines here recently.
I think so.
Some huge lines, and frankly, if the United States was any kind of moral authority, if we didn't have a corrupt and decrepit government our own selves,
if our government was doing the same thing,
I'd annex them.
Right.
I would just say, look, I would roll into Montreal, say Canada is ours now.
Do a rush on them, huh?
Yeah. And I'm half joking, but almost not. Because here's the thing. The United States used to be a shining city on a hill. We were a beacon, and we had the moral authority to say, this is wrong. You can't do this. And there was, and I'm not even saying that this is always the right thing to do, but there was a time where we had something worth exporting in this country. We had a good government, the right kind of laws, the respect for human dignity and liberty and all that stuff, that we could go to a country and say, you're not doing this right. Well, let me show you how to do it, and we're going to tell you how it ought to be, and we would actually have the moral authority to say that. Now, some people cringe when I say that.
Yeah.
Some people don't like the idea that we would, push our values, quote unquote, on other countries. But when you're right, you're right. Okay, the best idea wins, and the West has it, culminating in the United States of America and the philosophy and ideas that we have with our government and how we view the dignity of people and the liberty of people. Canada, if we were right as a country, first of all, a lot of this wouldn't be happening around the world if the United States was right as a country.
That vacuum I was talking about.
Yeah, the vacuum. Yeah. But if we were right as a country, I wouldn't have any problem going to Canada and saying, you stop it right now, or we will liberate your people.
Well, you're 100% serious, and I understand that. I don't want any coercive action against Canada or any nation to be forced to live our way. But it used to be we were such a beacon.
But they're forcing people. They're
I agree.
People.
We were such a beacon that other nations, particularly Canada, wanted to emulate us and felt that our example was the stronger model to which to go. And now they don't. My point is, I'd rather us extend a hand of welcome to Canadians who have had enough of that and say, we welcome you. We've got our southern got our southern border wide open. I'd open up our northern border and say, Canadians, if you feel like you want to leave that totalitarian regime, we welcome you. Come on. And you know what? We'd end up with probably 2 billion Canadians all in Florida. But that's another story. Okay, now this is kind of good, I think. At least I want to throw this out at you. Donald Trump, his social media started this past Monday called Truth Social. It launched late Sunday night in the Apple's App Store, and the app was available about after midnight, and it was the top free app available on the App Store, as a matter of fact. I tried to get on it. I signed up for it, and I was like, put in a queue, a listing. I was 330,000 or something. Now, they've since got me in there. And it's going to be Twitter-like.
That must be nice, because I tried to sign up. They supposedly sent an email to my email address. I was supposed to verify my email. Never got the email.
Did you check your junk folder?
I did.
Okay, good.
I haven't gotten it. I even requested it again. I still haven't gotten it.
I hope they straighten all this out, because the reason I'm bringing this up is it's going to be important now, during these times, more than ever, that we have a network or conduit of facts with all that's going to be happening now, because we know what the media is going to be doing from this point on is running cover for the Biden administration. No facts were coming out. I mean, you heard what the CDC did. Did you hear about that? They withheld 90% of the data on the COVID vaccine because they were afraid if some of it came out that there would be people who would be reluctant to take the vaccine. They decided on their own to withhold the majority of the data. So we're going to
It wasn't ready for prime time, I believe they said. In other words, it cut against our narrative.
Yeah, it did. My point is, so we're going to need now more than ever a stream or on every kind of platform where we can get reliable information and facts. Without that, we're going to be in a world of hurt.
And it's not our fault that we don't trust the mainstream media and Google and the things that they allow us to see when we search and stuff like that. That's not our fault. That's their fault.
That's their fault.
They have caused this deficit of trust. And so, look, is truth going to be one-sided, slanted stuff as well? I frankly would not be surprised if it was.
I don't think it will be.
But who cares? Who cares? That's all we're getting now.
Yeah, but
so
I don't want to slant. I just think I want people. For one thing, I believe in freedom of speech. So even if I don't agree with somebody who's saying, I want them to be able to say it. I don't care who they are. I don't care if it's the Ku Klux Klan. I say that as a black man, they have the right to speak and express their opinion, however stupid or awful they might be. And so I want a forum where people can express their feelings about whether it's a nation or whatever. I want a former CDC person who knows the inner working of what's going on there to be free to tell what they know without being censored. Okay, you follow me? So it's not just Truth Social, but I think the people who have money, who knows, Elon Musk might pop in some money now with all the treatment he's been getting to create alternative networks and alternative media where the facts are free to flow.
Well, I hope it works. I really do. I hope it's a good
He's got
thing.
the money to do it.
I haven't yet been able to get on there. So the world, the truth world is really missing a great contributor right here. Somebody get my account activated. Come on.
Well, apparently they were overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And hopefully they'll get you straightened out. I just found out it was on today. So I'm pretty sure a lot of folks may be having some trouble getting on. So again, I'm not just pushing that. I'm merely saying I think now is the time, if ever there was a time, we find alternative means of getting our information. Because anything that comes from this current administration, I don't take it with a grain of salt. I don't take it at all.
Yeah. Well, on the bright side, Cleve, Biden is only president for 3 more years.
I don't think so.
You don't think 3 years is?
He may be president for another year. And whether it's through an acceleration in his already mentally just fading condition that they can no longer hide, or whether they just realize that this guy is not going to help them out anymore as far as influence goes, they will find a way to get him out of there.
Well, as fast as things are deteriorating around the world, 4 years, administration that lasts 4 years might be insurmountable. It might be. It might be too much to fix when it's all said and done. I don't know. I don't know what will happen with elections.
I do not know. I do not know the future, and I agree. And this is why, again, Russia is an example. I believe that we have actors, people who are trying to bring about change and upheaval, who recognize this moment in time is a must. And I believe that even the bad polling of Biden and the Democrats are even taken into consideration by people like Russia and China, because they can't wait until something gets in there in the place of this that might actually, be an issue for them. Right now, they got this blowhard, this shell of a man, and an administration based on pseudoscience. They can handle that with their eyes closed. They can't let another Trump or somebody else get back in. So they had a tiny window, to me, in their minds, where we got to make hay now. That's what I'm saying.
They're doing a lot of destruction.
Yeah, and it may not. I don't know what the future holds. All I know is this. If our nation cannot see now what is happening, when I say our nation, the Americans, those of us who actually believe in the Constitution, and especially those of us who believe in faith, in God, if we can't see it now, we're never going to be able to see it. If we can't look at that now and say, no, we got to back off this. We got to go away from this. Then we deserve, to me, what we get. And I say that not laughingly, but as a matter of fact. If we can't respond in the right way after we've seen all this abuse, we've seen all what they've done to our kids, what they've done to our schools, what they're trying to do, is all out in the open now. And if we still countenance this, David, then at that point say, well, we deserve it, what we get.
Yeah, well, and I agree with you. But even if we don't countenance it, are we too far gone?
Well, again,
can we pull it out of the fire here?
I believe we can, but even if we can't, I believe it's incumbent upon me to try. I'm telling you. To me, and this is going to sound weird, God doesn't hold me responsible for success. He holds me responsible for obedience. And many times that turns out to be successful, but that's not the issue that he's going to ask me about. He's not going to say that you succeed. He's going to say that you obey. So even if there wasn't a ghost of a chance, and I don't believe it's that way, I don't believe it's that bad yet, but even if there were only a ghost, I would still go down fighting. I would still go down trying. To me, that's not an option. You follow what I'm getting at?
I do, yep.
Yeah. So, but I believe we do have hope. And I believe that America does have another chance, but it's got to be done now. I think our window is narrow as well. I won't say what that window is. David, always great talking with you about the great issues of our day, and you caught me on a day where I'm up and down emotionally. Thank you you bailed me out of it. I feel better now. Folks can hear Mere Conservatism again.
Yeah, check it out on Apple Podcasts. Find us on YouTube, MereCon Media, and our Facebook page as well. Make sure to leave a comment.
And even though David encouraged us perhaps to think about taking over Canada, I just let us become, once again, the beacon where people from Canada and everywhere else say, that's what we want for our nation. That's what we need. Hey, David Perry, I'm Cleve Walker. Thank you for joining us for another edition of Mere Conservatism. Keep the faith. It's not over with yet.